Did you know that electric cars have been around since the 19th century? It's true. Your great-great-great-great-great-grandpappy could well have been rolling down the boulevard in his 1896 Victoria Electric, hollering at your soon-to-be great-great-great-great-great-grandma. But you probably would have never known that because the gasoline engine was quickly accepted as the go-to fuel for, well, going. And electric cars were relegated to the early chronicles of automotive history books. However, now, in 2020, electric cars are back and in a big way. Most of the major car manufacturers offer some form of electrified vehicle that you can buy right off the showroom floor, just like a gas-powered car. But should you? Well, here's what you need to know about living with electric cars. First things first, Chevrolet loaned me this 2020 Bolt EV to live with for a week to figure all this stuff out. It's actually pretty slick. You can click the link in the annotation above to see my full review on it. Anywho, EVs, let's talk about them. Well, you've also got to understand that just like car companies make different kinds of engines like V8s and 4-cylinders, they also seem to put a slightly different spin on their electric cars as well. Most all of them feature a series of batteries tucked under the floor of the car, but the battery design, the number used, and things like that will depend on the car itself. Those batteries then zap an electric motor with juice, and that motor turns the wheels of the car. Some of them use one motor and others use several of them that can turn the front wheels, the rear wheels, or indeed all four. The Bolt has one big electric motor up front that turns the front wheels. Driving an electric car is just like driving any other kind of car. There are some seats in here, a steering wheel, a gas and a brake pedal. Most automakers are intentionally making their EVs feel as normal as possible to not put off first-time buyers. It sounds dumb, but if you dig back through those early chronicles of the automobile we talked about a few minutes ago, the early electric cars can get really weird. How weird, you ask? Well, I'll fill you in. An old school Detroit Electric, for example, didn't even have a steering wheel. Instead, it had a tiller. And that driver of the Detroit Electric didn't sit here to the left where I sit. They didn't sit in the middle either. Guess where they sat? If you guessed up in the corner by themselves in a little boxed area, you are absolutely correct. And that was so the rest of the people riding in it had a better view. On the road, again, it's just like a normal gas-powered car, except for where it isn't, because electric motors and batteries don't really make any noise, so to speak of, so EVs tend to be super quiet. So quiet, in fact, that the United States National Highway Traffic Safety Association, the NHTSA, mandated that all electric vehicles have to produce some sort of artificial noise below about 20 miles an hour, because otherwise, and you cannot make this up, otherwise they're afraid people will not see them or hear them coming down the road and will walk out in front of them and get hit. Speaking of low speeds, electric cars tend to shine the brightest around town. And that's because unlike a gasoline-powered car where the engine needs to rev up to make power, electric motors provide instant torque, making them feel very zippy off the line. Like this. That's fun. Anecdotally, they also seem to get slightly better range at these lower around town speeds, but more on that later. I know I mentioned that EVs tend to shine around town, but don't worry, they can cover some serious ground on the open road as well. This Bolt has no problem cruising at well over the posted speed limit. At least, that's what I've heard. Always obey your local laws, kiddos. But what about charging them? Well, I know, and I was getting there. This Bolt has a claimed 259 miles of range on a full charge, which is pretty similar to how far I drive any of my cars before fueling them up. However, unlike spending 10 minutes at a gas station and being ready to go again, EVs are obviously a bit different. Now, I'm going to go on the record here and say that owning a smartphone is pretty much required to use an electric vehicle at this point. Not every gas station has electric charging capabilities. In fact, most don't. So, you're going to do a little bit more legwork the first few times you charge your ride up. Fortunately, there are a ton of apps for your phone that show where EV charging stations are, whether it's done by a particular charging station company who owns those stations or by an independent app developer. For example, this test car came with a ChargePoint card. Now, ChargePoint is one of the bigger charging station companies here in LA. I downloaded their app and it shows where all their stations are relative to me. It also helps that the gym I go to has a charging station in their parking lot. So let's go check that out.
You're watching me figure out how to charge an EV for the first time. This is an EV Connect charger, so I had to download the EV Connect app and set up an account with them. Fortunately, this public charger was free, but it was also rated as being a bit slower than average. It said it would take about 10 hours to gain 200 miles of range, which isn't really doable for anyone.
But what about charging at home? That is one of the perks of owning an electric car, after all, is you can charge it while you're at home. Well, kinda. You see, most of the charging stations you drive up to tend to be level 2 chargers. Those are 240 volt quick chargers. However, most homes are only typically wired for 110 volts. So all EVs will plug into those outlets, but the charge times can be astronomically long.
This is a standard 110 volt plug from my garage, and it says the Bolt will take 76 hours to recharge from 10% to 100%. Yikes. The good news is that most home garages can be converted to 240 volts with that fancy level 2 charger by a qualified electrician. Some car manufacturers can even provide a list of certified installers in your area to do this. However, it does pay to call around, because in LA, I've heard quotes anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 to have the garage converted to 240 volts and get that fancy level 2 charging system installed.
But how much is all this going to cost? Isn't my electric bill going to be insane? Well, the answer is that it depends a little bit. Pull out your electric bill, we can do some quick dirty math. First, how much are you paying per kilowatt hour? Now for me, it's unfortunately a ton, because the city I live in charges quite a lot of add-on fees. But to simplify for some nice, easy math, let's say that number is 25 cents per kilowatt hour. This Bolt has a 66 kilowatt hour battery and can go 259 miles with that much juice. Now 25 cents times 66 equals about $16.50. Gas prices in California suck, so let's say I'd otherwise be paying around $3 a gallon for fuel. If my car gets 30 mpg, it would take 8.5 gallons to go 259 miles, like the Bolt. So it would cost me $25.50 to cover the same distance in a gas-powered car that the Bolt can do for 16 bucks. So would your electric bill go up? Well, absolutely, but it's more than offset by the cost of the fuel you would otherwise be using. Oh, and there's also one more little EV hack to deploy here. Say you pony up for that level 2 home charger and you can charge up your ride in a few hours. Many EVs, this Bolt included, can be plugged in overnight, but will actually wait until late at night or very early in the morning when less people are on the grid and the electrical fees are lower to begin charging. That's clever. The gains here again will depend on your area, but for me it would knock another $1 or so off each charge, which is rad. Whew, man, have I talked your ear off yet? Well, don't worry, we're almost done here. The last aspect is one everyone in the comments section is surely going to be arguing about, and that is that electric cars are expensive. Boo-hoo. But they're actually not. This Bolt is fully loaded and costs 42 grand, which is a big chunk of change. However, the average new car transaction price nowadays is right around $38,000. And guess how much a base model Bolt costs? If you guessed 37 grand, pat yourself on the back. However, stacking on top of that is that depending on when you buy or lease an EV, there are some crazy deals on these cars due to both state and federal rebates that consumers can apply for. Also, in the case of this Bolt in particular, Chevy's actually updating it for 2021 and is offering up to 10 grand off the sticker price of these 2020 models. Suddenly, EVs just got a lot more attainable, huh? So, electric cars, they're quiet, quick, comfortable, and suddenly easier to live with and drive every day than ever. They sure aren't like your great-great-great-great-great-grandpappy's rickety old ride. But, would you buy one? Do you plan on buying one soon? Drop a comment down below and let everyone know what you think about EVs. What's up, y'all? Jake here. I wanted to thank y'all for watching the video. Consider dropping a sub or a like or a comment if you have not already. A lot of dope car content lives here. We got track cars, drift cars, car builds, car views, you name it, it's probably here, or it could be. If there's anything else you'd like to see on the channel, please let me know in the comments. Yes, I do read them all, even the brutal ones where y'all make fun of me. Oh well. Well, see you guys next time, or go do more cool things with cars. Bye.